Well, good afternoon and good evening. And I think people are saying it's so quiet because we haven't started, so we're about to start.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for everybody to actually come into this session. And I see beautiful comments here. Definitely, we have some of the greatest minds here today, experts in the field that are simply here to share their experiences, the learnings, the knowledge with all of you. So please post your questions in the Q&A part. If you want to post anything on the chat room, we can also see that. So I'd like to welcome you all to our session today about marketplace challenges and opportunities during COVID-19 crisis. And we would like to believe that we're coming towards the end of it, now. And we know that 2 months ago, we were saying we're at the heat of it. Startups, companies, SMEs were all voicing out, some of them were voicing out happiness by looking at the numbers increasing in a way they haven't seen before. And some of them were really concerned about the future and what is not known in front of them. And as we just said, we were discussing before, business as usual is a fast term, basically. Disruption as usual is what we are experiencing today. Changes are becoming faster and the pandemic have accelerated all. I'm very delighted today to host this session to you, and I'd like to hand it over to my dear guest to give me about, a brief of all of you. You're all known, but would love, our guests to know you much better. So let's start by, how about ladies first, Maram, and then we'll go to the gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We get this is ladies, we get the privilege of starting off. Thank you. As you know, Maram Aljishi, I work for the Small and Medium Enterprise General Authority. I'm handling the e-commerce development programs for SMEs. And I have my background is with computer science, and I did my graduate in management, specialized in e-commerce. I came from the private sector as I started my own business, and then I used to work for initiatives and programs and proposal for the government and how to empower the private sector. Then I shifted to the government. So I have both hats, the SMEs hats and the government hat.
Beautiful, and I think we'll be touching, on that a little bit today as well. The regulatory parts and about the SME part and the impact on them for sure. So I'll go to you as well. Let's see the entrepreneurial factor of the session, Yousif.
Okay, so first, thank you for having me in this rich panel to discuss actually this important topic. I think we will go and discuss a couple of very important points. Just to go to my experience, I have almost around 22 years experience in the private sector, starting from defense and aviation, career. Then I recently, actually before like 4 years, I moved to the e-commerce and tech technology companies sector, starting as a GM in for Carriage, which is another startup in food delivery in that time. Then in actually the first quarter or second quarter of 2019, I actually used to be the former CEO for Carriage, then moved from Carriage to be the current CEO of Hungerstation. Hungerstation is the #1 leader of the food delivery industry in the KSA, and that's who I am.
MashaAllah, thank you so much. And this is a great, vast experience, and I think it's so relevant to a lot of the startups and the SMEs that we're going to see today. So this session is brought to you today by ArabNet in collaboration with Mastercard. So you're kind of the host, Amal, for this session as well with us here. So I'll hand it to you to tell us a little bit about you as well, about your role in Mastercard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amal, thank you so much. And Yousif and Maram, pleasure to join both of you here. My name is Amol, and I'm responsible for the Mastercard payment gateway product for Middle East and Africa. in my role, I have the opportunity to work with many of you as businesses, Maram, you and the team as, government representatives. And I also get the opportunity to work in multiple geographies in our region. So, I'm keen to share learnings that we've gathered across, different geographies that Mastercard operates in. On a personal level, I've had the chance to work in Middle East, but I've also had a chance to live and work in a few other geographies, namely Singapore, Belgium, and India. Have had the opportunity to work in payment services, in telecom, have seen, these different industries come together in different small business, and, keen to share some of these during the discussion today.
Thank you, Amol. Please save these insights. And I think that's what the entrepreneurs want to hear is like the different views from multiple sectors, and how can they really leverage this learning definitely in the areas they are in. And I think that brings us also to the topic, of today here, and about the challenges and the issues that we've seen during the start of COVID-19 and the impact on its marketplaces, companies, and the SMEs in particular. And one of the biggest economic headlines that we've seen in most of the newspapers, and everywhere is the impact on such companies and how are they reacting? Are they really going to continue shutting down the superstars? Are they going to continue? And I think we've heard a lot of theories and economic, analysis around how the market will operate and act. And definitely governments stepped up the game to support and make sure that these companies can continue, that no people can lose more jobs, and that they have a little bit of stability over here. I think that brings me to you, Maram, over here, to shed the light, being someone who works today, in the government and in the Small and Medium Enterprise Authority, to tell us what are the main challenges that has been reported to you during COVID-19, by such companies in the digital sector, and what were the efforts that have been really offered to them in order to continue?
Well, thank you for asking this. This is a very important question, and the impact on the SMEs, mostly we see it as the business continuity, the challenge of continuing the business, the challenge of delivering their products to the customer, continuing selling their services and offering their services and product to the customer. We had in Saudi Arabia, in particular, we have where 5% of the SMEs only are leveraging e-commerce. So imagine with the lockdown, the impact on the 95% of the SMEs who weren't online. So they faced a lot of challenges in how to, shift rapidly and leverage the e-commerce to continue their businesses. Another challenge was how can they reach their stores? Some of them, they don't have warehouses, so they needed to reach their stores to at least keep shipping for the customer and preparing their products and shipments. So these were one of the major challenges. They wanted to shift and they wanted to leverage e-commerce, but they didn't know how, where to start and what's the appropriate channel. Should they join a marketplace, or should they go and open their own application or their own website? So these were the major issues facing them, along with the expenses that goes with all of this. So as a government, what we did is we offered them the first aid is consultation. We offered them advisory, online virtual advisory on what's the right step and case by case. And then we offered one-on-one training for SMEs and how to open an online store, or how to start selling through e-commerce or through marketplaces or their own store, how to master and enhance the supply chain and all of the basics. So these are the one-on-one. As well, we did a couple of initiatives with other government entities like SAMA. SAMA has removed all the fees and transaction point of sale fees. They offered lots of financial support with the fees, as well as we did with the payment gateways. We offer free setup and reduced subscription for the year. We offer the free online stores with a lot of major players like Saeed, like Sella in the kingdom, and we negotiate with a lot of enablers to offer incentives and subsidized services to help those SMEs.
That's amazing, and I think what really intrigues me in what you're saying, that some of them wanted to do this for a while, but they didn't know how to, right? And I think that's part of probably the mental kind of burden of, I don't know, it's probably too much hustle, maybe I need to pay a lot of money, and not understanding maybe the how-to part is a very important burden. And I've heard it probably a lot from so many of the small companies that are saying maybe it's better to stay on the way we are. I think these efforts of education, although sometimes we look at it as people should know, right, that everybody's moving in line, but it's really difficult to change your ways. And I would encourage also all of you during these discussions, Yousif, Maram, and Amol, if you have comments, please jump in, and I'm sure you have things that's going on in your mind, even in the middle of our discussions here. So Yousif, you seem to be nodding a lot.
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest, positive things that happened during this crisis is actually the government role, especially in KSA. The government and all, authorities, all ministries played a very huge role to support the ecosystem, the small and medium entities, and also for the the more mature corporate level entities as well. From what Maryam just mentioned, and also from a bigger perspective, where we actually had the chance to utilize all the things that happened in the past, like the communication services quality that is actually already established in the kingdom. Imagine if we are not in that kind of readiness level from that point of view. The life of the people and the citizens will be very hard during these days that are fully reliance on the e-commerce. And so I actually second Maryam on her thoughts and inputs, that I think one of the best things that happened, we actually saw the government involvement like a very essential role to support the ecosystem and to maintain the level and quality of the lives of the people in the kingdom.
Absolutely, and we've seen a lot of voicing out and lobbying, between the corporate startups, and I think it was
yes.
For the very first time, and I think Hungerstation is one of also these companies that have participated, in lobbying for certain regulatory parts along with other companies. So maybe that brings me to the next point to you here, Yousif, about how do you see it, as a marketplace? How do you see it? I know we could talk about lots of challenges. We've talked about also lots of opportunities, but what was really the deal breaker, I would say, for you in terms of this challenge, and what was the opportunity you've identified really?
Sure. No doubt, it's a crisis. It has a huge negative impact on the economic side of the equation here, and there is from a government perspective and from a private sector perspective. So it's a huge, both got a huge hit. So that's the challenges that from different levels. But I think one of the biggest winners, because there is winning parties here, was the government. Let me explain my point of view here by saying that there were a lot of regulations or intentions to regulate some of the markets and to enhance and control such markets in the benefit of the consumers and the competition itself. So when the COVID-19 pandemic happened, it's actually accelerated the application of such regulations. Not only that, but verified some of the assumptions that the government hadn't had a chance to test. Or were planning to test in in a longer term timelines. So this crisis gave the government, all the government, ministries and the regulatories to come and test the plans that they had. Some of them worked. Some of them they verified that cannot be applied. And it could actually damage the business. So I think that is one of the biggest advantages that happened there from a government perspective. As you said, it's a crisis, economical crisis, health also crisis, but I'm very optimistic of the future, the near future, and also the long and midterm future for the business and for the government itself. I saw the government working as a corporate. We had a chance, as you said, Amal, to be in close interaction with high-level government, individuals and leaders. And we saw it's very similar to how we deal with our companies. Me as a CEO, so all the factors are there, and this is a huge, jump in how the country is being managed currently and in the last couple years also and recently. So this makes me very confident that as we are talking the same language, we have the same mindset. I mean, the private sector and the government sector, and we can be more collaborative and more, in a more synergy basis to actually take our plans and our visions and our businesses to 10 times better in the close future, inshallah.
Yeah, Yousif, how do you have to deal as a team with like we said, it was a health crisis, right? That economic crisis, that even people are saying it's causing a mental crisis as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like it's a lockdown. So.
It's a lot. So all these factors as a company, did it impact like the ordering, and the behavior? For example, how did you deal with that? Because I assume a lot of people were reluctant to order at the beginning, right? Yeah. And then later on, when the safety announcements came, the packaging, the way of delivery, training, right? That all changed that. So how was that dealt with, and how fast?
I think again, I am very optimistic. I think what happened was a cleansing process. So some of the things that happened or applied from a precautious, perspective, should happen like before in the normal circumstances. So when this crisis happened, it pushed these kind of procedures or precautious. You mentioned packaging. The packaging was like a sloppy packaging in the past. Now it's a proper packaging for food from the restaurant part and from the delivery companies also part as well. So if we go to what happened, I can walk you through the process. At the beginning, yes, there was a huge hit. There is a full lockdown for us, for a delivery company. We rely or we serve actually a huge sector, which is the restaurant and food and beverage sector. So they were under a full lockdown and or partial lockdown. So that impacted us financially. So since our sales dropped by almost 95%, we don't have sales, even though that customer has the will to procure, but the vendors are not available there. So from a financial perspective, I think there was a huge impact at the beginning. Then gradually, I think, as you said, with this kind of awareness campaigns, collaborated campaigns between the government, led by the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Interior, and also the Ministry of Telecom and other ministries, the people became more relaxed. and aware, and also I think the government played it smart in this case. I'm very proud as a Saudi to be to witness such, as a Saudi citizen, to witness how the Saudi government reacted during this crisis. They are very careful on you know, they are among the first countries that applied certain restrictions to protect the country and the people of the country. Then they started to relax things, but after preparing the people and the ecosystem to interact with such you know, factors or new factors. So at the beginning it was difficult. Then gradually things were being relaxed, and we actually saw that restaurants enhanced their quality. I will talk about our sector. So yes, we had a huge impact from a financial perspective, but from all our internal KPIs, we had a huge increase on. Let me give you some examples. From total delivery time, which is one of the basic major KPIs that we offer to our customers. We used to deliver like in 30 minutes as an average for our, do you hear me, or yeah. So we used to deliver like within like average of 30 minutes. We actually went down almost to the 20 minutes deliveries. So that's a good enhancement in our KPIs from a customer experience perspective. From an efficiency of our operations. So as well as we in our internal KPIs, one of the things that happened also that restricted our growth from a demand perspective was the restrictions on the movement of the riders or of the delivery fleets for us, due to you know, some certain permits that needs to be from the you know, the concerned government entities. So that's a process that takes a little bit time. So we actually also had a huge hit in our capacity, in our delivery capacity. But we came up with some innovative you know, ways to maintain the utilization of the available fleet and also maintain the customer experience. I will say so, internally, it helped us a lot to become more financially efficient, operationally efficient. We have a couple of KPIs that are related to the customer, you know, satisfaction, like the NPS, Net Promoter scores. They jumped 20 points up. So the customers were happy of the service that we are providing during the crisis. Why? Because, as I said, we deliver faster. We deliver you know, we were close to them and trying to entertain and be available to deliver the necessary things to them and to their families. From a love index perspective, it also jumped a couple of points up. So as I said, I have some evidence to make me very you know, optimistic of the future post Corona.
I mean, I think it was well needed that we can hear, you know, the challenges and then the positives of how to overcome, because marketplace, sometimes startups or SMEs would look only into the technical part only. But you've mentioned all of these. It's the delivery, it's the efficiency, the technology, it's the people, it's the love, it's so there is a lot that goes into a marketplace to make it successful beyond the tech itself, you know. And
the easiest part, by the way, Amal, if you allow me, was the tech and product part, because it's something that we can you know, change and enhance and develop where per the strategy and the need. I think the strongest part of what we had is the people, the team. We were prepared to such you know, circumstances and be under that kind of pressure. Without strong teams, in a Hungerstation case, we could not actually pass by or overcome the crisis. I witnessed some of the other players in the market, they gave up. They could not actually be compatible with the government affairs or government restrictions, so they had to shut down for a couple of days or weeks. In our business, shutting your business for one day would cost you a lot. there is a lot of reactivation cost, churn cost, and things like that. So I think you mentioned people, and I think the best thing that also, or the most biggest factor for past buying or overcoming the crisis for our business was having the strong teams to lead us through this crisis.
And that's what makes, I think, all the change. And maybe the other element here is obviously is the payment, and my dear friend during the crisis was Mastercard, right? I think I started to memorize, the numbers, and when I start plugging, and if it's not saved, I would just try to guess, and get it right every time. So, and that brings us, to you, Amol, over here about, the presence. And I think if we ask the question, definitely there's multiple, financial services and other cards, but for Mastercard in particular, what is the role that have been really played to support MSMEs during those times, and how can you tell us really a little bit about how do you look at the crisis, and how can they utilize these, how can they look really into payments, because that's one of the fastest accelerating paths that we will see a lot of innovation, I think, in the coming period.
Absolutely, Amal, and I'm happy. So, a couple of things I want to reflect based on what Yousif and Maria mentioned, right? So, Yousif, you very rightly called out, the advantages of being prepared, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of tying this back to what Maria mentioned on different initiatives the Saudi, authorities have taken. And what I've observed, even before this health crisis, financial crisis, how Monsha'at and the overall authorities have proactively set the framework well in advance. And now that we are facing the situation, we've actually been, been able to leverage on the preparedness and the future, right? And, this is what, Monsha'at and the teams have done in terms of engaging SMEs. Or we've also seen as Mastercard in our engagements with various authorities as well as banks, the frameworks that have been set in place have actually helped us overcome some of these challenges. Right? Now, at the risk of kind of stating the obvious, I should mention that local companies, okay, in Saudi and in different markets are the lifeline for our economies and lifeline for our communities. Right? So it is important for us to actively support them during this time and as they move into the future. Right now, before I come to how Mastercard is playing a role, I just want to kind of reflect on some observations. Right,
Please.
What we have seen, Amal, is small businesses have shared some concerns and challenges as they move into digital. Right? We see small business telling us that, oh, this technology is too complex, right? I have to deal with so many different people. Sometimes the challenge is, oh, will I be paying more in taxes? Yeah. Or will the cost of acceptance be high, right? Or when will I get my money? So, these are real challenges that small businesses, bring to us as an ecosystem. And, while there are challenges, they also appreciate the fact that going digital is going to help them in immense, in different ways, right? So they all appreciate the reach that digital as a channel brings to them, right? They all understand the transparency and the opportunity to scale that this brings to them. Now, what we've done as Mastercard is we've tried to bring together, number one, solutions which will meet the challenges that small business face. Number two, partnerships. We've engaged through, in some cases, fintechs, some cases, government organizations, or PSPs or payment facilitators, as we call them, to engage these small businesses. Now, if I just call out some of the examples of, what kind of solutions we believe have been successful, like in many different markets, we've seen QR code based payments as one, solution that has worked for small business. Similarly, we have a platform which we refer to as Simplify, which is enabling small businesses to go online in a very quick fashion. right? Now, these solutions put together and the partnerships that we've established with the ecosystem partners, combined with the awareness that we are all driving towards, the consumers, conveying to them the fact that safety, security, and convenience are brought together by these different participants, we believe to move into the digital world.
Definitely, definitely. And it's, Amal, I think that, you in Mastercard being a leader, you also a trendsetter as well. People would actually look about the changes, look at the announcements that have been said, and you act pretty much like an enabler in many ways as well, to those SMEs in some shape or form, I believe, right?
Absolutely. So, trendsetter just reminds me, one of the challenges that we hear from small business is the cost of acceptance, whether it is the cost of the physical point of sale terminal or the cost of acceptance. Now, one of the new technologies that we will introduce soon is something which is referred to as tap on phone, right? So leave aside the mechanics, but essentially somebody can pick up an Android from their preferred banking partner, and that phone itself can become a contactless enabled acceptance device. So, innovations such as these, we believe, are going to be key to reduce the cost, reduce the barriers for small business, and percolate the overall digital, acceptance of payments.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is really good. I think I like the fact what you told us, these innovations to allow them to basically accept and lower the barrier of fear of like entering into that. And I think this is part of what we were initially discussing with Maram here, which is that barrier of jumping into the next new thing. And I know, Maram, you deal with that a lot as well with all of the companies that you talk to and with all the digital transformation initiatives that you're part of. And I think it's worth mentioning also another challenge or a threat that most of the SMEs were speaking about and voicing out maybe on social media. Like, for example, if Amazon is entering the market, what does that mean? And Amazon is just an example, right? There will be many other companies, there will be many other entrants, in the market. What does that mean to these SMEs, and what sort of mindset they should actually adopt? And I know that this question has been asked to you also, multiple times, here, Maram. So give us your comment, and then we'll probably also hear from Yousif and Amal also on that, and the point of view. Do they, or should they look at it as an opportunity to utilize, or should they look at it as a threat that they're afraid of, and take certain measures, knowing that one of the questions I got before the session, should I start my own website, right? Or should I join a marketplace? Should I have multi-channels? Should I focus on one? So tell us, Maram, a little bit about that, please.
Thank you. Well, first I would like to comment on what Amal and Yousif mentioned about collaborating with the government and the private sector and leveraging and laying out the framework. Well, one of the major issues that all the government faced during the pandemic is to how to deliver or how to continue supply the basics of product, the lifeline for all the people during the lockdown. Food, medicine was number one. So marketplaces were one of the major supporters in helping and enabling delivering these products and the lifeline for the SMEs. What the government have done with the Hungerstation and with other applications who were able to deliver these products or services to the customers or to the residents. So we worked agile. Everybody worked in agility. We worked in collaboration. We worked as one team, government plus the private. So, for example, before the pandemic in Saudi Arabia, there was no license delivery application, where since the pandemic, we have now with CITC 37 application were licensed. So marketplaces for delivery, for maintenance, and for internet payment as well. Anything that give the resident what they need to stay safe at home. So we thank them a lot, and of course the payment is a major part of this, because without the payment, and like companies like Mastercard and all the other payment gateways, this wouldn't have happened without them. In terms of when it comes to Amazon entering the Saudi market, well, this is the trend now. This is everybody's talking about this, and they were anticipating their announcement of Amazon.sa. But let me go before they announced the Amazon.sa. Amazon was here working through Souq. Souq is a company that Amazon acquired, and they are the major players when it comes to e-commerce marketplaces in the kingdom. They take their share is like 46% of the market share is for Souq, and others is for other players. So they were here before. Now that they are here through Amazon.sa, it's a fully customized website, being back end, front end. It's all with Arabic support and all tailored for Saudi market and enabling Saudi SMEs. So we prefer to look at it from opportunistic point of view, meaning that Amazon will help us, will help Saudi SMEs get a fast track into e-commerce, accelerate their transfer. Amazon have mastered the whole game, and they have like advanced technology, and they worked with SMEs all over the world. So they have this experience. They will cut it short for the SMEs, and they have all the support service that they can provide for SMEs. So we look forward for those services and how to, establish their merchant account, and how to onboard, all this onboarding programs that they give. And from another perspective, the number of jobs that they can offer, and the number of enhancement to the ecosystem, meaning the logistic sector, the last mile delivery sector, all of these services that will Amazon will help enhance. From a government perspective, we look for the job creation and sector development and all of this that Amazon could take. Of course, Amazon as a giant may have posed a little worry for SMEs, but the government is working with them to ensure that SMEs will get all the positive side, and to reduce and minimize the negative effect of giants. And we look forward for them to help, when there is a competition in the market, and Amazon being a huge international company, this will help SMEs even and other local marketplaces compete with the prices, compete with the quality of services, being before and after sales, compete with providing great customer experience and great before sale and after sale, and so all of that. So a little bit of competition is always good to the market, and we incentivize SMEs to leverage that, and the customer is the winner. Everybody will compete for this.
Totally agree. Yeah.
That's what we've been hearing. I think, Yousif, you've got a comment
Yeah,
here.
I think just if you would like to start with the Amazon topic, I think having such big players, global players entering the Saudi market has a lot of advantage. Again, they bring their experience. They actually, adapting the technology in the right scale. They can test the ecosystem in the right ways, and can open the door for small and medium entities to actually explore the opportunities and discover them, and know where to go. So competition is always great, and as I said, it's good for the customers first, so the customers are winning always, and also it's good for the ecosystem itself. And I think we should be happy, and we'll actually, I think this is part of the government also vision to be attracting more global players in all sectors and businesses. So I think nobody should be worried. I know that how these kind of big giant global players, when they come, they will actually open more opportunities and will help you to verify your business model and also your team's readiness and things like that. If you allow me, I would like to go to the payment topic, which is, I think, since we are sponsored with Mastercard, there is also some of the things that I can share from the kitchen of the business or the private sector. We used to have like almost around 40% online payments in our business, before the pandemic, and now and during the pandemic, in relation to the government restrictions for the sectors, they actually prohibited any cash payment, so it was 100%. We as businesses, we thought, okay, so are we going to lose 60% of our customers who are cash-based customers? Surprisingly, we did not get that. So it was actually the crisis helped the people, helped the business to accelerate the adoption of the online payment, which is the most preferred payment method for businesses and for the people for too many reasons, obvious reasons. So that's one of the advantages. And to give you some also numbers, now the restrictions are being relaxed, so customers can actually go to the cash on delivery payment. We actually maintained 70% online payment ratio. So we did not go back to the 40% level. So this is one of the advantages for us. Cash handling, was a big challenge for many obvious reasons. So that's one of the advantages that this crisis brought to the market. If you allow me, one of the things that actually the crisis pushed us to do as customer-centric companies, platforms and marketplace. So we focused on the essentials of the people, and we, as Maram said, we had a very close collaboration between the government entities and cross sectors. So we had meetings with the grocery sector. This didn't happen. The biggest chain of supermarkets in KSA, very huge ones. They did not see the adding value of the delivery companies to their business. So bringing everybody on the table, sponsored by the government, and discussing the challenges, the opportunities. And we actually managed to actually cover the whole kingdom. Hungerstation, specifically covered the whole kingdom of network of supermarkets that can deliver while the customer is at his home, safe and sound, around his family, and he can get his essentials in less than 30 minutes in a full lockdown or full curfew circumstances. So that's one of the advantages. As I said, it's a cleansing process. It's a verification process that helped the ecosystem to the momentum of collaboration between the ecosystem to understand the opportunities, and also to overwork the challenges that actually blocks that kind of synergy between the stakeholders of the. So one of the other things this is also another success story that happened during a full or a partial curfew from a CSR perspective. Hungerstation managed, in collaboration with the Saudi Food Bank, to deliver in the holy month of Ramadan, 500,000 meals to the people in the need. I think if you are familiar with what happens in the Ramadan, people, having a will to give to the people in need, but they cannot move from their home, so they cannot actually get to these people in need. We, as delivery companies, mainly Hungerstation and all the other competitors at the market, we actually became a solution. We deliver solutions. This is one of our values in Hungerstation, is we deliver solutions. So we were a solution for this specific need for giving people in the need, and we did something that we did not actually, when we launched the campaign with the food bank, we were actually saying maybe around 50,000, 70,000 meals, and that was the target. Surprisingly, we were doing like 70,000 meals a day. So we had to slow down during some of the weeks of Ramadan not to accept any donations until we actually clean the pipeline. So these are also the other positive. And I know it's strange that I'm very optimistic of the future, but these are all very evidence from a person who leads one of the biggest leader in the region from the e-commerce perspective and technology companies. And I'm telling you, despite the health and economic crisis, the future is very bright. I think there is a lot of opportunity for the small and medium entities to discover. There is sub-sectors that are not being built in KSA. For an example, the 3PL, which is third-party logistics. We would like to rely on specific small, medium entities that can actually fulfill our need for expanding our delivery capacity. That's a sector that I used to work in Kuwait while during my job as a CEO of Carriage. In Kuwait, that sector is a little bit mature, or more mature than the sector in KSA. So that's an opportunity that I'm actually, if we have some of the entrepreneurs, with us here, go and build your 3PL logistics company. There is a demand and there is a need, and also the regulations are pushing toward that. And we, as big companies, we are willing to support the ecosystem and the small and medium entities to enter that market.
Very interesting, Yousif, because I think it's interesting what you mentioned. It takes years sometimes for corporates to sit in the same room and agree on a kind of agreement and all of that, and that's a global thing, right? And rather than sitting with a company that is completely disrupting in many ways and agrees on that. So I totally agree with you on the fact that we've got this kind of alignment that we've seen. We've got that kind of work coming up with solutions that are super quickly to serve the end users, and the blessings, I think, as you said, of the government have supported and that a lot. It kind of, as if the government was giving hints to companies like you, this is where you should go, right? We're facilitating, we're putting the approvals, guys, just go for it and deliver the best way possible. And definitely the customer centricity part is, a huge part of it. And I think I remember, as a user, definitely of Hungerstation, would say when I first started to see the supermarkets, I'm not a big fan of going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I was like, looking into a simple list that will fulfill the needs, have actually something. Now I realize that you don't need to go and turn around. So this is, I think, maybe that's the other question that I'll come back to you later. Think about it now. I'm going to go to Amal, which is, what tips would you give to someone who's new in a marketplace, the building a marketplace or an e-commerce? If you were to think of basic, one-on-ones to them, how would you prioritize what they need to go for? Is it looking into the partnership? Is it looking to create their own thing? Because I see this question like 2 or 3 times. Do you recruit like the delivery persons, or do you actually deal? So I'm going to leave you with that question, and we'll come back. We'll go to Amol now, and to, you know, to dig deeper into that. So Amal, I think, you know, when it comes to, again, we've seen, you know, all these changes, all of these things happening, the partnerships between the corporates, the startups, you know, and the SMEs, and all of that happening and getting super accelerated. So as Mastercard and as a major player, you know, in payment gateways, I think, you know, it would be interesting also to know, how do you support and work with these marketplaces to address certain challenges? So let's say these are things that we exactly know. So you have mentioned earlier, like the big picture, but how do you really deal, you know, with some of these challenges and opportunities and work with these marketplaces directly? Amol? I wonder if Amol is having, you know, okay. So
I think we lost.
Again and out again, and you know, then Maram probably will actually take us also through, you know, she took us through what Monsha'at has been doing with the government collaborations and partners, you know, and all. But what I would ask you, you know, probably here as Monsha'at, you know, as all of these efforts, you know, Maram, where do you see the support? Yeah. Support was going in the regulatory part, right? Making sure that people feel safe when they're moving from a traditional model to another model. Making sure that the regulatory part is there to protect them, right? You know, just go into that. There's things, even with the entrance of giants, as we mentioned, and all of that. So if you were, Maram, to walk us through a process, again, I mean, maybe Yousif will take us through the e-commerce, but if you, from a regulatory party, what should a company, or what are the stages that they go to within Monsha'at? You know, I come to you today, I want to start, you know, an e-commerce. Tell me what to do, or I want to transfer my traditional business. So what would I need to go through?
So the journey, this is very important question that all the SMEs have been asking for the past, since the pandemic. So the first step is, I will encourage them to first go and take a online advisory session with through Nawafid web application. Nawafid app offers virtual advisory services with advisor and consultants specifically in different sectors. E-commerce is one of them, business planning and business development, strategies, finance. Take at least 1 hour session with a consultant to see, to help assess your company and guide you through what the next step. Second, go and take online course, the one-on-ones offered in the online academy, training academy that Monsha'at offers for e-commerce. Third, look at the packages through a Mazaya platform. That is the discounted services and support services for payment gateways, for marketplaces, free e-store support for like 6 months. There are packages that's covering that. So, and then you can, throughout this process, you can go back and, you know, and ask for advisory through the application. Another thing is, like we are here, we have our e-commerce at Monsha'at.gov.sa email. So contact us. There is another program that we have launched, and it's specifically for the medium-sized company to help them transfer to e-commerce. And by helping medium-sized companies, we will help all the, you know, the sub-companies, the SMEs, the micros who work with these company transport. So leverage this program. The second session will start on July 6th, and it's been done in collaboration with the International Development Island, IDI. So we have collected all joint effort with all the expertise in e-commerce and business development in the digital to help these medium-sized companies develop a growth plan specifically for e-commerce. But I would like to emphasize that, you know, marketplace, for those who aren't in e-commerce yet, marketplace will be the best choice for them to enter the market, because before they go and do invest in an application or website, this will help them reach the customer fast, will offer them all the support and infrastructure, with the being integrated with the payment gateway, with delivery and last mile delivery and fulfillment companies. Plus, they will take care of the overhead of marketing and reaching the customer, and all the infrastructure, technology infrastructure for you. And they will give you, you know, a chance to test the market and test, you know, how the market and how the clients react with you, and build up your customer base, online customer base, and then you can, you know, assess that and look at developing if there is a need to develop your own strategy. Globally, even the large companies are shifting to go through marketplaces. We've seen lots of large companies, they go like 80% of the traffic comes from different marketplaces, where they keep their online website just for the company image and branding, but for the sales, 20% of the sales only comes from that website. But remember, selling online requires effort, requires resources, and require different strategy. It's not a traditional e-store. So we're here to help you understand this and ease up the transformation. Yeah, one of the things, like COVID-19 had major impact on SMEs, and some, like a lot of SMEs had negative impact. But when it comes to e-commerce, it most likely will have a positive impact. It had a positive impact on e-commerce. Most likely will also, the positive impact will continue. And one of the major shifts that Abdulaziz Yousif has been talking about in Amol is like the reduction of cash on delivery, ordering, and trust on ordering online. And it has changed the, you know, customer behavior, and most likely this behavior will continue.
I agree.
Beautiful, and great advice towards, you know, the testing. I think the biggest thing that could be, which is to ease the burden of trying something new, is testing it with an existing platform. You don't need to invest in the infrastructure of building, assigning someone to market. It's like free traffic, right, coming to your website with certain charges that are structured already, and the possibilities are really huge. And if needed later on to just, you know, reassure or have a better branding, maybe for whatever reasons, you need to direct them later onto your website. And I think that's definitely one of the things that a lot should adopt. And, you know, minimum viable products is one of the things that we hear a lot, but when it comes to testing, they want to test their own website, right? And not really test in an existing marketplace. So that's an interesting point. Welcome back, Amal. We've been looking for you, and we're happy that you're actually with us online. I hope you can hear us well now.
I can hear you. Apologies, all of you. Something technical.
It always happens. This is, you know, this is what happens these days. But what we were discussing is about the services that, and the journey that Monsha'at offers really to the SMEs who wants to get into the digital platforms, basically, whether it's a marketplace, you know, whether starting their own online stores. So I think the question is, from your vast experience over here, Amal, what sort of recommendations would you give to the newcomers, you know, into the online world when it comes to basically just getting into something new when it comes to payments, just a collective wisdom from your different sectors that you have actually worked on? What should they look for when they move towards online channels?
So, Amal, first thing I'd like to call out is digital is no more a fancy place, right? It's a trend and it's here to stay, right? We've had opportunity to perform some consumer surveys in different parts of the world, and consumers are clearly telling us that, folks, I want an experience which is touch free. I want an experience which is cashless, and I want kind of, give me that choice to kind of, work with me in that fashion, right? Now, when I look at small businesses who are entering this space, there are a couple of things, I would want to kind of point them towards. Number one, go online, but keep mobile as the center of your thinking, right? So please drive your customer journey, your customer experience with that mind, right? Number two, I think your engagement. Many of the
I think we're facing difficulties again, a technical glitch with Amal. So hopefully he'll get back to us, and we'll catch up, because these are really good advices, that all the startups can benefit from. So until Amal is back, probably Yousif can start that, drilling down on what needs to be done.
So yeah, sure. I think the top recommendations that I have is actually aligned with my colleagues in the panel here, is automate as much as possible. So this is the normal right now. So and one of the things that we noticed, as a service provider or as a platform or a marketplace, that who won this situation or actually managed to maneuver and became or survive in a way or another, who the partners who were ready from a technical and agility perspective, so they can shift immediately, and they have that kind of flexibility in their operational and business model. And this is my recommendation to the small and medium entities, is always build your model, your mindset, be ready to shift, to actually become agile and test new ways, and react with the circumstances. I always say to the team, in my teams actually, that management is actually managing the circumstances and the resources. So how you react as a leader or as an owner or as a manager to the circumstances is like managing them. So you manage your reaction. It's all about you, not about any external factor there. So be ready to interact in such a flexible way and innovative way to do. I will give you an example. One of our partners had doubled his sales with us during a full curfew circumstances. Why? If I mention the name, I will not mention the name, but it's obviously because they are the #1 operational excellence partner in the market. So they are not complaining about, the crisis actually hurt. It's a restaurant chain, a very global, big one. So, and this is the kind of things that I see, and I think you need to be ready to be agile, to shift, and also to be innovative on reacting to the circumstances. This is what we do. For an example, in Medina and Mecca were the first cities to have a full lockdown. So the people there, with the collaboration of CITC, for example, they came to us, put us together on a table, said, the delivery sector, what can you do to the people in these two cities? So restaurants are closed. We haven't yet prepared for grocery in a bigger scale to fulfill the need of the people in that. So in 72 hours, we launched Hungerstation, launched their personal shopper service. It's a new product that were not actually in our plans for the next 2 quarters. It's actually planned for the next year quarters. So we had the capability to adapt and move fast and becoming very agile to provide the customer with a personal shopper service that made their lives and the customer's life easier, and they can actually get access to their essentials during that. So that's the first recommendation. The other recommendations, business is a profitable, how can I say, organization in a way or another. It's not a hobby. It's not a charity. It's not because you have the passion to do this. So if you are not ready for such circumstances and to test your strengths and test your team's readiness, then it's not a business. These are the times where you actually verify if you are having a business that can stay for a longer time and become a reliable business for you to become an income revenue stream or main income revenue stream or your dream project. So be ready from a financial perspective. Apply a very restrict financial management rules from the beginning, from day one. One of the things that happens for the small and medium entities, they don't care about their financials, their cash flow, and that's the business blood in a way or another. If you don't have cash, you cannot pay your fixed costs, the salaries, and the ones who were ready and having kind of reserves or access to funds in a way or another, through Monsha'at, for an example, or the programs that the governments are offering, or through their own reserves, cash reserves, and planning of their cash flow. That's the other recommendation. So always, manage the business as a serious business. Don't give yourself and your team a chance to be, without that kind of governance and compliance with the financial controls in a way or another.
Beautiful. Maybe Yousif, you have to write a book.
Monsha'at can sponsor that. I'm okay.
I'm Monsha'at as well.
Okay, so
basically, we'll contact you later. I think this is one of the ask questions all the time. It's the how to and
agree.
How you actually can come from an experience. You can actually pinpoint. That is what you should do at the beginning. That's what you should pay attention to here. And I think it's always the continuous debate. Is it consumer and customer experience, or is it my financial model? And it's probably connected of all, right? It's
a balanced approach again. Yeah.
Absolutely. And and I think Amal have also kindly shared with me some of the words that he started as well to add to what you're saying. When you're looking at your own business, the things that you should pay attention is definitely consumers is one of them. Understanding them, monitoring the changes in their needs, and making the buying experience smooth. You could lose your customer if you have a simple glitch. Basically, to make it simple, seamless, so people can come back and don't worry about it. Simply frictionless, and these are his words. And excel on delivery. So not only about the technology that we've been talking about, as you mentioned directly, Yousif, it's about the whole component and the model that to build it. And it's a serious business that I feel that marketplaces are multiple businesses within one umbrella. So you have to manage your different models, and that's what makes it complicated. And we've got we're coming towards the ends, and maybe we can answer some questions and to both of you, Maram and Yousif, before you give us your last words here to the entrepreneurs. Yes, you're back. Welcome.
I am back for now. Let's hope it stays. But I just want to add to what you're saying. So what we've seen is it's important to retain that connection with your consumer, right? Because as we move digital, we should not take a hit on the actual customer interaction, right? So businesses needs to think about how will they keep that engagement, whether it's through a loyalty program or whether it's through a personalized experience, right? Many of you and me have, bought online, and we would want to make sure that this business that we are dealing with understands who we are, what our preferences are, etc. So the personalization element is going to be key in order to succeed in the digital world.
Absolutely. And these are all, I think what you're giving us today are formulas that to stay with us from day one all the way, as you continue. There will be, I think, and you tell me both, Amol and Yousif and Maram, there will be no day where we say we've learned enough about our consumers.
Yeah, because and I'm really happy that you brought the personalization aspect here, because now the technologies, the AI helps you to actually predict what the customer wants, and this is what we do in our platforms right now. The offers that you get, Amal, is different than what the Maram gets through the UI, so through the app itself or through the other channels. So it's also personalized, depending on your behavior and your preference. So this is all already happening, but I think that's a space that the small and medium entities needs to focus on. This actually, one of the main KPIs in any platform or any marketplace is acquisitions. So that's the biggest KPI for you. You cannot survive without having the most efficient, acquisitions from a volume perspective and cost perspective. The most important is actually the retention cost and the frequency ratio. So if you have a product or a system that can give you what or predict or build a promotion or a service that is very close to your personal needs and requirements, you're going to win it. You're going to actually, so imagine if you paid $100 to acquire a customer in your platform. Then he did his first order, then he will do a next order next month. This is not the right, customer lifetime, value that you need. You need him to order more and more often in order to return the investment of the $100 you spent in the beginning to acquire him. So again, the personalization is one of the best things that the small and medium, it's through technology, by the way. It's easy if you have a great product and technical team. It's available, and it's just algorithms and codings and things like that.
Yeah, and customer lifetime value is probably the first question that anybody would ask about, and investors will go about the cost of acquisitions.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Number one, that goes.
Yeah, I agree.
That will have to always be ready to calculate. And as you mentioned today, with technology, it will be easy to monitor and track and have these numbers super clear to us. And I think, I'm trying, I tried during the discussion to also grasp, a lot of the question and embed them within what we do. So hopefully we've answered, most of them. But I see here, somebody's asking, Rami, do you think that COVID-19 accelerated the adoption of super app strategy concept from latest main apps in the market? And what challenges will newcomers face to this path? And this is open to all of you to add, to comment, please. So who would like to pick this up first?
Maram. Because when I start, I will not end, because this is also another, interesting topic, So I will give the chance to Maram,
When it comes to super app, we've seen the trends towards providing the whole customer experience within one platform, one channel, have him chat, do the transaction, browse, ask their friends for, share the story, ask their friends for their opinion, and completely without leaving this platform. So the trend is toward this, and we've seen Facebook just a couple of weeks ago, they just announced their e-stores. So they're enabling the Facebook user to create their e-stores on Facebook, and having it connected with their Instagram account, with their WhatsApp, enabling them to share stories, to personalize their offering to a customer, and all of to use and leverage all of of the information and capabilities of their platforms, of their trade platforms. So definitely, and they just announced a payment in Brazil. I know it was stopped after like a couple of days after it was affected, but definitely it's going towards that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, Amol, I think you didn't have that enough time to.
If I can, so Yousif, if I can just
Sure.
call out. So in my view, Yousif and Amal, and I think Rami asked this question. There is value that these new partners as well as the super apps bring to the consumers, right? So there is always room for improvement, there is room for disruption, like we said, and there is room for new value to be brought up. So I think if we keep that as a framework and look at your question, you would understand that these new entrants or the new channels will always have a room to play and a room to succeed.
That's a good point of view, actually, to look at it, because people will always look at certain stuff in certain angles, right? And I think there's always more into the story, right? It's not just the obvious, definitely, into that part, which is what you've highly articulated over here, Amal.
Yeah, so if you allow me, because this is also something that, definitely, transforming toward being a super app is a must right now, in a way or another, like gradually, not. This is my recommendation also here, that you cannot become a super app until you reach a certain level and certain, from a customer base perspective. If you don't have the right number of customers that you can offer them this kind of multi services and features, it's just a planning for collapsing, and so you need to start specializing in a certain service or providing a certain product in a way or another. Then when you actually have that kind of reach, or you reach a certain level of readiness in a way or another from a customer base perspective, you have 1 million users in your database. Now you can actually introduce new services gradually to do this. It's not easy to manage such multi or multiple products and services in one platform without that kind of and also to make money, to monetize it actually. And this is my recommendation. It's for us in Hungerstation scale and other competitors in the same scale. It's a must. You cannot survive actually without moving toward becoming a super app, in my opinion. And for the small and medium entities, that's your vision in the next 3 years when you start today. So you need to actually build on the path to become the super app in the future.
You're on mute. We cannot hear you. Sorry.
Thank you so much. So it's about basically where you want to be, and that could be part of your strategy, and it could be part of your whole vision. So you've got to sit where you're going. And I think we're reaching towards the end of our session, and we've seen many topics that have been brought up, such, a hot topic, if I may say, to a lot of the new entrants, knowing that marketplaces and e-commerce platforms are basically the future over here. So I believe that we're gonna witness a lot of competition, a lot of innovation yet to come, all in favor for the customers. All will encourage the players to actually compete to gaining that one customer, that used to be in one platform. Now customers are owning multiple, and downloading multiple platforms. And like, if that didn't work, I'll just go directly to the other one. So no second chances, right? So I think, and as we're wrapping here, from a government perspective, from a company perspective, from the Mastercard perspective, if there's any one word that you would give for a new e-commerce, a new entrant, to this market, knowing that it was an interesting point here. Is there any place left for a new one to enter? Somebody was.
There is a lot.
Exactly. So much places. So that one last word, please, from you, and let's go with you, Amal, because we really have missed a lot of the wisdom that we needed from you today. Amal, please, would you mind sharing that with us?
I'm happy to go first. I'm happy to go first. I think, folks, while you are looking at entering this, keep the problem statement that you're solving for and whom are you solving this for on top of your mind, right? I'm sure the scale and the financial value from that will follow if we are able to solve for somebody's need in a particular way that is appreciated by this user. So I think those are what I would think as the guiding principles.
And it's always the starting point with the customers, and it will never end. It will continue, and that's definitely well articulated advice. Let's go on to Yousif.
Yeah, so I think the definition of customers needs to be actually explained here. So I think most of the small and medium entities are focusing on the end user as a customer, while there is a lot of opportunities for a B2B sectors or for a SaaS sector here. So I don't see that there is a focus from the entrepreneurs and the small and medium entity owners on that sector. The subsectors that the B2B is not tapped yet. There is a huge opportunity, especially in the case A, to actually focus on that and make huge successful stories. Fintech, for an example, one of the things that I'm very happy that entered the market, because it solves my problem as a business here. Buy now, pay later. That's one of the things that it's a fintech solution that actually helps me as a business owner. So I'm your customer as Hungerstation, not Yousif or Abdurrahman who's in his home or anyone else. So this is my recommendation. I think you have to see the overall picture. The ecosystem is not only a B2C, it's a C2C, it's also B2B, it's government to businesses. So see that picture. The opportunities are in the details. The subsectors are very important. If I just mentioned, I think a few minutes ago or like 30 minutes ago, the 3PL sector, the logistics sector, it's not a mature yet. It's a crucial need for the whole e-commerce, and nothing can happen if there is no system that can deliver the goods or products from to the customer. So that's an opportunity. Focus on that area. It's not only having a delivery app or something very common and very easy to penetrate in. So that's my recommendation here.
Sometimes they say, look into the problem that nobody wants to solve.
Agree.
So if you find that problem, you'll probably stand out. Absolutely. Maram.
Well, I would like to tie what Amal mentioned and Yousif. Amal as for the client and Yousif for the sectors. Let me give you a figure. All internationally, worldwide marketplaces all together, they're worth $814 billion. This is all of them combined. Yet there is the opportunities in the health and education and housing, where 90% of the customer spending goes there. And Amal, I'm sure you know this, being in Mastercard. So 90% of the spending for customer goes toward education, housing, and health. Opportunity is not realized yet. All the marketplaces are still not offering like a complete solution or a marketplace that will offer, and this is not only in Saudi, it's globally, it's international. So the opportunity is there, investors' appetite is there, and we've seen the acquisition and for application for marketplaces that happened during COVID-19. We have been in the region, I'm sure you've interviewed Jola before, so there is like 29 29 billion, if I'm not mistaken. 32 investments were made majorly in e-commerce. So the opportunity is there, investor appetite is there, just focus on solving the client and the potential in these sectors.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, we say, and we go back to the first point with Yousif, the optimism about the coming period with all the changes and the disruptions that we know we're facing. I mean, we still see a lot of opportunities coming up. And as you mentioned, Maram, over here, investments have been made. And up until this moment, we hear from investors, they're still looking for the next deals. So funds are available. There is no way that, you know, all of these venture capital funds will stop funding. It's about finding the deal that will prove it's, you know, dealing with the current situation that has the most sustainable plan to move forward. So with all of these words of wisdom, you know, Mastercard, Hungerstation, Monsha'at today, I want to thank you, Amal, Yousif, and Maram for sharing all of these experiences with us. I know we haven't answered and captured everything, but I hope that you guys reach out to us probably on social media and other platforms to get you answers. And all of the disruptors here, you know, keep being aware that you're being disrupted. So be aware, you know, and be resilient, be, you know, agile in your way, and keep your eyes on your consumers. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
So, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ArabNet, for the session. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
ArabNet. Yeah. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.